So I've started writing again. I'm off and on with writing, So I started doing it again. Before it was a lot of poetry. Now I've kind of fell out of that, and then I want to try narrative stuff now. I may have spoken about it before. I don't know. And when I write, I just write from real life. So most of what comes out on the page is either something that I felt, something that's actually happened to me. It's a lot of that. I might as well be writing a biography, but it is what it is. So, but it just all comes out. Now, when I actually run out of my own shit and can't write, that's when I don't know what I'll do then. I have to create my own stuff up. But for now, when I write, it's just a lot of me, a lot of personal situations that have already happened in my life, and I'm just turning them, adding, embellishing, making them entertaining, more or less. A situation that's happening when I'm writing is kind of it's kind of how be a short story. I think I know what's going to happen, and I know what the conflict is. I just don't know how we're going to get there yet. And so how we're going to get the resolution. But I'm just writing through it. But spoiler alert. I doubt anybody ever sees it except for a friend. I'll send it to a friend, and that'll be that. But what's going to happen in it? Actually, let me say this. Has a situation ever been presented to you? And I'm going to tell you this specific situation. And you weren't sure how to go about things with it. And the situation I'm talking about is, has anyone ever come to you? And this is basically, the women can think about this too, but it's basically for men. Has any guys out there ever had someone tell them, hey, I'm getting up in an age, I can't find nobody. And you and I can't be together, aren't going to be together, or whatever. Would you think about having, being a sperm donor, basically? This is kind of the gist of the conflict that's going to happen in what I'm writing. What is everybody's thoughts on that? And I feel like you have to be in a certain situation to even be sit back and think about it. And if say you were told that, I want you to be this runner because, for what they name a list of things they like about you and would love their child to have those things, those traits and whatnot. And to not worry about, any responsibility. They would just have your genes. You basically just throw it in a cup and you just send it on its way, and hey, you have a kid out there that she'll never be a part of. For me, I find it a little problematic for myself. I understand that plenty of people actually are sperm donors and they get paid to do it and whatnot, but when you actually know the person, there you're doing it to, you're to help out people, I guess. But in this situation, you know the person and you possibly could see them sometime. You never know. And they walk around with this little kid looks a lot like you, and hey, that's my kid, but I have no responsibility. Hey, I was just a sperm donor. How do we feel about that? I feel like if there is a child in the world that is mine, even being told I don't have to worry about responsibility, I have a responsibility. that'd be a tough thing to know. And like, oh, I guess wouldn't be tough. It would weigh heavily on me because it's not tough just to donate the sperm and then just like forget about it. Say everybody just moves, and you kind of just put it in the back of your mind. But also, like, what is the thought process about from a friend of yours coming to you and saying something like that? Saying, hey, would you mind? I feel like you'd have to be really close friends. And be trusting of each other, I guess. I don't even know. Like, I found it. I think if you were helping out like a friend and her spouse because they couldn't, because plenty of people have friends that will carry that, like be surrogates and shit like that, right? That happens plenty of times. That's something different to me. That is something different than what I'm talking about here. It's almost like, and in this specific situation that actually happened, it's almost like, oh, I can't have you, so I want to do this to have a piece of you. And I wonder if it's almost a ploy to try and to kind of pull you in, And I'm just now processing all that and thinking about this years later. It was a hard no from the get-go. I thought it was a wild, question. But yeah, I'm just not thinking. Is that a ploy? Is that a ploy to be to at this moment I can't have you. This is the way I'm going to have you. Because you never know what's going to happen. You have to get that kind of shit in writing, saying, "Oh, I don't have any responsibility." That couldn't be like a verbal. We can't do a verbal between the two of us like that. I feel like there's got to be lawyers involved, like something, because you don't want that to go sideways, especially if you have no intention to actually follow through with the responsibility. Me personally, I would want to follow through the responsibility, but also if I want to follow through with the responsibility, I might as well and get the sperm to you the old-fashioned way. There's no need to using the cup and everything, If this is going to be the deal, like, I'll just give it to you the old-fashioned way. Anyway, I think with that, that's what I'm writing. Mull that over. It's good for me to say it out loud and talk about it because it helps me write, and I kind of flesh it out a little bit. But has anybody ever been in a situation like that or anything close to that where, oh, can you be a donor or something to that effect? Or you as a woman, if you ask someone, hey, can you be a donor? Not that I think there's anything wrong with that, as long as everyone's is in agreement and, everyone's taking responsibility or not responsibility for, what's going to happen and what it is. So, anyways, this is the JC Weekly Podcast episode. I don't know. Wow. Let me double check. What episode? I think it's 34. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was right. It's 34. Episode 34 of the JC Weekly Podcast. You can find me everywhere under JC Weekly. On all your listening platforms, video platforms, shorts, TikToks, Instagram, shit like that. I'm reading this book right now. Actually, I'm kind of reading two books. One's an audiobook because I drive a lot, so one's on an audiobook, then one I'm actually reading while at the house. But I'm reading this book, and in the book, two people get stranded on a plane crash, stranded on an island, whatever. It is a bit of a romance deal. So they end up, it's the whole kind of trope, not liking each other in the beginning, and end up, falling for each other, whatever. Not that I'm saying it's not good. I'm just kind of getting to my point. I thought about this situation because I just got into the part where they finally had sex and everything. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was stranded on an island somewhere and I was not sure if I would ever, or if I'm like just trying to live, just this basic living, I'm running out of water, I'm running out of food, all this shit just making it, beating the elements off of me, animals, whatever. It's always been funny to me when in like TV shows and movies that people end up having sex in these situations, these dire situations. I don't know if I can set that aside. I don't know if I can set the gravity of what's going on around me aside to have some sex. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, it's a zombie apocalypse. Oh, let's have a little sex. It'll fix everything. I just don't, I don't get it in that regard. The part I do get is you're the only two there. You're the only two around. You're the only two exist in the world. It's just you two in your world, and that's it. There's one man, one woman. Everyone has needs, and everyone's in. I think what it is a lot of times, and I think a lot of people are going to attest to this. The more you see someone day to day, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, the better they start to look. And I think this is what happens a lot of times in like office romances and shit like that. You see someone every day for 8 hours a day. And at first you meet them and they look, they just look decent. Like, oh, she's nice looking, yeah, whatever. As time goes on, you see them every day. You get to know them a little better. And they still start looking better and better. Like for some reason, like the attraction just starts building and building and building. And you're saying, oh, what? I mean, yeah, I guess she's pretty cute. I mean, it's kind of attractive, And there's certain things about her you start picking out, shit like that. I think that's the kind of the case with the Ireland thing. Like it's just you two there, and there's really no other choice. I mean, we're going to set aside the fact that I wouldn't even think about having some sex. I don't think, because it would just be too stressful of what everything else going on around me. Wouldn't even get up. It's not getting up, okay? I'm sorry. I've got a lot of things I'm thinking about right now, and it's not this. I'm hoping I can eat tomorrow, okay? But yeah, like I think a lot of times that same thought process is what happens in like office romances. Is when you see someone all the time, this day after day, there's a comfortability comes there. And the attraction starts to build a little bit, and they start to look better and better the more time passes. I think if you didn't see them every day, and you saw them once a month, twice a month, and it's just every once in a while, the thought you had of them when you first met them was like, oh, they're this is very nice. She's very nice. Just decent looking, not really my deal. Then that would stay. I don't think that attraction grows. Like just you met them, you see them again in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. It's the same thing. You probably don't even think about it this time, right? But that's when you start making. That's when you make mistakes, though. You start because you do something like that, and then you look back like, why? I did not think she was that attractive at first. Why did I change my opinion on that? That's basically the thought I think most people have. It's kind of the old saying. It probably rings true, right? No, I guess it doesn't really pertain to this situation. I was going to try and work in the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Doesn't really work here. Because really, in this situation, absence does not make the heart grow fonder. Seeing the person every day makes the heart grow fonder somehow. That's the problem going to work, man, and having coworkers. This is the issue. You just see these people. It's kind of it's the same thing when like you see someone every day and say they're gaining weight, but you don't really notice it because they're gaining it slowly. But you see them every fucking day, so it's just minuscule amounts of weight every day. Just over time. Then someone who hasn't seen them in like a month, they're like, oh my god, they picked up so much weight. And you're like, really? It's that same type of thing. But I don't see, but that's just way different than that's this is a work environment. Everyone's fine. Everyone's healthy. We have food. We have water. We can make these type of decisions or bad decisions, good decisions or bad decisions, based on how our attraction is growing over time. Now the being stranded on the island now, that is something different. That's something different. I mean, you can't say for men, maybe women too. It's hot on a desert island. I mean, like let's say tropical island is what it is, a tropical island. It's hot out there. Sometimes the heat just make your dick get hard. Let's be honest about it, man. You know what I'm saying? This is just being a little hot. And it has a mind of its own. You can't help it. And if she's out there and washing off in the ocean, the clothes start falling apart. You're not wearing much anymore. You're like, oh, I understand how those thoughts can go there. I feel like shows and like this books and whatnot and movies, they jump to it really, really quick. I feel like we got to be there at least a couple months before I'm going to start thinking, oh, maybe I can smash. I want to do my best just to live, just to make it those 2 months. But yeah, I mean, talking about the absence of hardcore fun, it's kind of on the flip side of things. Seeing someone and already having that attraction, not seeing them for a while and seeing them again, I do feel like you do think they look way better than the first time you saw them. Like, oh god, they look so good. Yeah, if you start out with an attraction, yes, that saying definitely rings true. Anyway, it's weird stuff. And I think, especially the tropical island thing, but the work thing, I think that's where most work, like office romances, start. I could be wrong. So I'm sure some start with actual attraction. They're actually, but some I think just grow over time. They just grew over time. I've seen this discussion had multiple times online, like in the last week or two, and it hits a little closer to home. And I've kind of ignored addressing it and talking about it. But tonight I decided to. So the top, basically the gist of it, people were asking, women would post and ask, hey, women, would you get involved with someone who was separated but not fully divorced yet? Would you date them, and start that relationship when they're not, the papers aren't finalized. They're separated. They're not living together. There's no intention, I guess, of being together. I'm gonna tell you what. The overwhelming answers from all the women is no, they would not do that. They would not be with a person who is, and I understand it. I'm not putting it down at all. I definitely understand that. And so I thought about that about myself, because I'm separate at the moment, and it ain't gonna take nothing but some paperwork to get finalize that. But I thought about this for my own self. That I wouldn't, as much as, even when liking someone so much and maybe wanting to go down that road, I would not want to push it there if I was still under the separated heading, like classification, if I will. Because that's distracting. That is a distraction, and it is taking away. It's dragging along the old relationship with this new relationship, right? I didn't think about this, to be honest with you, and for a long time I didn't want to get into anything new anyway. And like most things in my life, I changed my mind. So it's not even changed my mind. I just softened to the idea. That's probably the best way to put it. I didn't close the door all the way. I think I just was taking that time to heal about past shit. So I just softened to the idea. And I'm like, oh, but that's totally right, though. I mean, so when I first read it, I was kind of like, oh gosh, like these people wouldn't want to, they know they're not together. Why wouldn't they want to get involved? And I thought about it and I understood, like, that's just too much. That, like, first of all, technically, that person's still married. That's probably the biggest thing, right? But if we can get past that part of it, right? I think you're purposely ignoring the baggage being dragged into this new relationship with you. And the thing is, I wouldn't want to do that, because everyone comes with their own baggage anyway, and I won't want to bring anything extra in. I would want to come to it as clean as possible. And when you've divorced, it's not going to be too fucking clean, but it's just coming as clean as possible. And where I can give all of my, I'm not going to say all, because as much as undivided attention to the new thing and new person as I can. But first I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be honest, I was very offended. I wasn't offended, but I was like, gosh, because I've been separate for a while. I just never went through the papers because I was in a funk, and I was like, I'm just not going to fucking worry about anything. And sitting down and doing a lot of thinking by yourself, you start to realize, oh, I have a lot of life to live. Maybe I should, entertain something or anything, the idea of it, at least, maybe. Keep the door open a little bit. And so you start thinking about that part, but you don't think about the unfinished business you have going on with the current situation. Because I definitely would want to not make them feel lesser because there's this extra thing going on with me that I still have to show attention to. Because dating is hard enough, right? Dating, I feel like, and I say that very generally. But it's hard enough getting to know people, dating them, it's hard enough without some outlying thing out there. And it could become a, not even a distraction, but a very argumentative point at some point, at some juncture in the relationship where she's like, "Hey, why don't you divorce yet?" Basically, and that's fair. I think that's fair. If she was like, "Hey, do it or I'm gonna leave," like I think that's fair. I think it's absolutely fair. Or do that before we even think about going anywhere further. I think that's absolutely fair. I guess I've always thought of it like, I feel like there's so many people that like separate and like have girlfriends or have boyfriends or whatever, like right after. You always see it. And I guess I didn't think the general society, interpretation of it was, or perception of it was so negative. Because you always see people like directly after they separate, they have somebody. Yes, I do understand there's a probability if they have someone directly after separation, they probably were cheating, so it's the situation's already built up. But people do, get into relationships, when they're separated. So, and I feel like I see it, pretty commonly, and so I never thought of it that way. But after reading through this thread of people, all these women saying, "Oh no, that's never do that." Now there were some naysayers, not quite naysayers, but just people giving a little grace, like, "Hey, sometimes you gotta understand how long this takes. It could be a little complicated, this, that, and the other." And people were like, "Hey, hit me up when you get all that worked out. Otherwise, not, because you're technically still married," which is very much true. But yeah, let me know what you think about that or anything I've said tonight. Once again, this is another episode. This is me rambling. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really been in a good flow with the podcast here recently. I might make changes or something because I'm just kind of getting on and like just talking, and I have loose subjects in my mind, and I just kind of go instead of having like dedicated. I really feel like I need to change something. I'm not sure what it is, but that's for me to worry about. But I appreciate anybody who does listen. Keeping listens, like I guess I'll keep making, and I keep having, if I keep doing this and enjoying doing it, which I kind of do, generally do, because sometimes I like getting all the thoughts out of my head, and why not do it into a microphone and send it out to the interwebs? But please let me know what everyone thinks about anything I've said today. Just hit the comment section up. I'll be more than happy to talk about it. But until next time, peace.